second meeting of the Marxian study group. Today we have Professor Jose Maria Sison. He's a Filipino patriot. I've not met him until today, so I'm just going to read his bio here. He's a proletarian revolutionary and internationalist. I don't think there are too many of them now. He's a Filipino statesman. He's known for his expertise and experience of the people's democratic government and revolutionary forces in the Philippines. And he's recognized as the foremost thinker and leader of the Filipino people's movement for national liberation and democracy in the last 50 years. He's been consulted by governments and by presidents, senators, congressmen, and local officials of the Philippine reactionary government concerning peace negotiations with the National Democratic Front of the Philippines. So today, Professor Sison is going to speak to us on a Marxian critique of the neoliberal economics agenda. And Professor Sison will speak for about 20 minutes or so, and then the forum will be open for Q&A. Afterwards, we will have, we can go to the butterfly bar, and the welfare office has kindly provided for our refreshments. Okay, Professor Sison.
Thank you for the kind introduction, and I would like to thank the group, the Marxian Study Group, for inviting me once more to speak. 2 years ago, I spoke before your group, and I was made to reminisce my development as a Marxist in very personal terms. Now, I'm assigned a very large subject, and I was afraid that I might go astray if I like a certain point to develop. So to make sure that I can give you a concise and comprehensive view of the neoliberal, the Marxian or Marxist critique of the neoliberal economic agenda, I prepared some notes, and I'm going to read from them, and think in 20 minutes time I can finish reading, and the more lively discussion will follow, I suppose, after this boring reading of the notes. Let's see if it's really boring or a bit more interesting than what we usually take in academic institutions as well established as ISS or the other university or the universities in the Netherlands. Let me begin by reviewing briefly with you basic concepts in the Marxist critique of the capitalist political economy. There is a contradiction between the social character of production in large-scale machine production by collective labor and factories on the one hand, and the private appropriation of the product of labor due to private ownership of the means of production on the other hand. A small part of the new material values created by the workers goes to them as wages for their subsistence. The surplus value above the price of labor, above the wage that is paid to the workers, is divided among the capitalist as profit, the banks as interest on loans, and the landlord as rent. If there's no landlord, then the imputed rent goes to the corporation. To maximize profits, the capitalists keep on enlarging the constant capital for equipment and raw materials, and keeping down the variable capital for wages. Every commodity contains the old material values, previously conceived labor from the use of raw materials and depreciation of equipment, and new material values that only living labor power, expressible and socially necessary labor time of the workers can create. The drive of the capitalists to maximize profits by enlarging constant capital and pushing down wages is that it results in a crisis of relative overproduction. It becomes more difficult for workers to buy what they produce as the capitalist profit rises and their real purchasing power declines. The rising ratio of constant capital to variable capital also results in the tendency of the profit rate to fall. Expanding the money supply and credit can be used to stimulate production, trade, and consumption of the goods. But it has also been increasingly used by the capitalists to accelerate capital accumulation, even overvalue assets, and rake in higher profits, not only from production, but more so from the financial markets in an effort to counter the crisis of overproduction and the tendency of the profit rate to fall. Ultimately, the boom goes bust with economic and financial crisis occurring at the same time. In the development of the free market economy of the 19th century, the monopoly capitalism or modern imperialism of the 20th century and thereafter, the role of finance capital became dominant and decisive upon the merger of industrial capital and bank capital, and the higher importance of the export of surplus capital over the export of surplus commodities. The state always plays a decisive role in the running of the modern economy, be it industrial capitalist, socialist, or semi-feudal. It accounts for a large chunk of the economy, and its policies can shape the economy one way or the other. This is a statement that goes against, the so-called free market presentation of the state as a beast, of some kind. Anyway, in opposition to the capitalist system, the Marxists or the scientific socialists advocate the overthrow of the bourgeois state, the socialization of the private ownership of the means of production, and the adoption of state economic planning to ensure the balanced functioning and development of the economy and prevent the economic and financial crises that have afflicted capitalist society. Socialist societies have in fact arisen and developed until undermined and destroyed by modern revisionism and restoration of capitalism. But this is a narrative that I will not dwell at length because I'm dealing with the capitalist system. In a capitalist economy, at any level of development, the state accounts for a large part of the economy as the biggest single employer and as the collector and spender of tax revenues. It can shape the economy through monetary and fiscal policies. It can play a pivotal role in further developing the economy. It can use the power of taxation to reallocate resources and provide social welfare and social services. It can cause economic and financial crisis through misallocation of resources. And when economic and financial crisis strikes, the state intervention is called for to counter or solve the crisis. During the Great Depression, state intervention was deemed necessary as an instrument for countering crisis and reviving demand, production, and employment. The Roosevelt administration proclaimed a New Deal and created the Works Progress Administration in order to reemploy large numbers of the